get it out, but that's probably I'd like to welcome the committee members here, your worship, the Mayor, staff, members of the public, and do we have any apologies?
Councillor Phelps?
Councillor Phelps, any other apologies? As the grave of motion, the second for Councillor Neal and Councillor Beard. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. Any changes to the declaration of interests? Now, you will see one officer, so I'm the only extra person, and I have no changes to conflicts of interest. Any urgent items not on the agenda? Thank you to minutes of the last meeting. Are there any additions, amendments, corrections, etc., to the minutes of the last meeting?
Happy to move.
So move to worship the Mayor, thank seconded Councillor Beard, all in favour? Carried, thank you. We now go to the actions immediately.
Madam Chair, we have two items on the action listing. One is the continuance of the evaluation of the performance of the committee. That is scheduled for sometime this year.
I'll speak to that as well.
Okay, yeah. And the sensitive expenditure policy, which the Chair asked for to be brought back to this meeting, with an inset of the policy principles from the OAG. I'm afraid town just took over. We've been very busy with the LTP and audit. We just haven't been able to do that. The policy itself is robust. It's just those principles that start at the policy that you want to insert it.
And with respect to the evaluation of performance of the committee, we actually looked at doing this last year. The purpose of this exercise is to, RTC smell to speak, it's the continuous improvement idea. So obviously we want to deliver a committee better and better and better. And part of the process for doing that is to evaluate our performance. And we did look at doing this in 2022. And the way we did it then was we used a questionnaire which has been used by quite a number of other entities, and it went out to all the members of the committee, and then the responses are compiled, and then we have a workshop and discuss them. And we didn't get enough responses back that particular time, and obviously that was the previous council, so I'm going to try and do the same exercise again. I've actually got hard copies of the questionnaires we used last time. So the first bit is some generic questions that you can actually apply to pretty much any committee. And the second one is specifically in terms of reference to this committee. And literally all we want people to do is to put your comments on and send them to whoever's going to compile them. Now with respect to compiling them, I'm quite happy to do it because I actually do some of this sort of thing in my day job, so to speak. However, if there are concerns that that may affect the independence of the output, then clearly you would need to have someone independent of me and independent of the council do it. That's really a decision. Obviously, if I do them, it's very cost effective because it's free. But and it would literally just be capturing the comments, putting them all into one document. So we've got a working document to workshop on. So if, for example, the question around the frequency of meetings, everyone agreed that it was about white, it would just be about white times 5 or times 10. I haven't been input into it. So I was thinking if we could make a decision around the process of this meeting, then we could have the questionnaires go out and actually have a workshop after the next main meeting, if that suits members. It's not just committee members, it's also members of staff that get to input this. It's all those that are part of the process. So I'll pass these round, and I know you get no time to look at them, and some of you have seen before down there. But like I said, have a think about the process, and the two main decisions are you happy with this process? And in terms of compilation, would you like someone independent of myself and council to do the compiling, or would you be comfortable with me doing it? So are we able to, with agenda type things, I'll put this at the end of the agenda so people have got a bit of time to think about it. So I know I've sprung it literally on everybody.
Leave that to your expertise.
You could hand them out now and follow up with the next insurance.
The actual workshop and
I'm happy to comment now.
I'm happy to
Maybe
comment
this week.
now.
Yeah. And if anyone who was on committee last year would have seen it to start with already, but
Happy to make sure that people compile the results as they come. I'm away in the May meeting.
so you're away as in you can't zoom in, or you're away.
I'm away and then I'm going to
It would be valuable to have you here because this is your second term on this committee. What's your opinion around that in terms of James Wade? It's simply because she's she's a second term on the committee.
I think it's important that because it's just a small committee, I think it's important that everybody is involved.
Are we able to change it to the day before?
Right?
Are we able to change it to the day before?
To change it.
So the council meeting that day.
Well, perhaps we can, instead of actually making a decision, what their preference would be to have it in council. So if that's not feasible, then the actual workshop part and the questionnaires and compilation could go out pretty much in probably the next couple of weeks. And then a month or so for people to get feedback. So people would be comfortable with all that. It's not really emotional, right? Is it? Okay, we'll make a motion that we use the questionnaire approach to evaluate performance of the committee. That I will do the compilation, even though it's recognised by the chair, but there's no input from me going in, it's just literally an editing job to put everything in one document. Then we will follow with a workshop on the results of that compilation, either at or around the time of the May meeting. Or if that's not possible, August. So I'd like to move that as a motion. Yep. Worship. All in favour? Okay. Carried. Thank you. So in terms of the action list, I'd also move that the updated action list be received, and obviously it will need to be updated to include plans for the list. And do I have a seconder for the updated council? All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Yes, no presentations? In that case, Leslie, will you carry on with the
Work
work?
plan. The rolling work plan really is just a roll on of the month. The external audit dates here are estimated. We haven't heard from audit as far as the annual report's concerned yet. We've just been LTP audited at the minute, so these are estimated based on previous years. And under internal control framework, as per the action list, I've put the sensitive expenditure policy to come back to the next meeting.
Thank you. So, committee members, any things that you think of that are not on the work plan that you might like to see on a work plan or in the future, any sort of areas that you think could be more on or less on? And actually, as part of evaluating the workshop, that might be a good opportunity when we go back in terms of reference to see if you think could be helpful. And we'll just update it as well for the changes around the evaluation of the committee's working. And on a side note, you just mentioned about internal controls and things. Now, it is possible that sometime in the reasonably near future, on my other job, which is working for Grant Thornton, that we're looking to develop a tool that is free for particularly looking at not-for-profits and charities around preventing fraud. It's very common. Those that don't know, I'm a certified fraud examiner, so we're helping problem with this. And so it's to try and develop an educational on-demand tool that small entities, any entity, but really focusing on these internal tools to help them be defrauded less often and what they can do about it. And that's another council that I know of that said that if I wanted to, if we give it to them, they could distribute it through their community networks and things to make available. So that's just, you know, if that progresses, if my project progresses the way I'm hoping to, and, you know, he'd be very welcome to use it, to distribute it. Situation, but there's a lot more around than what people realise. And, you know, if wants to get the money, then the charity, the charity don't, etc. That's just kind of like a side note. I just like these things. We move that the water work plan be received. Thank you. And we'll now go on to the quarterly report.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Through the Chair, I present the quarterly report for the second quarter of the year. That's the quarter that ended on the 31st of December 2023. I'll take it as read, and through the Chair, I'll take any questions.
No, you start.
I thought it might be helpful for the committee if you talk through the business around the liquidity risk ratio and also 745%, and just which is higher than the LTNZ ratio. So it was just to sort of give us some background about how things are tracking there. It was on page 18.
Yes, through the Chair, if I could redirect that question to Leslie.
Oh, okay. You're wanting to know about the ratios?
Just about the ratio, because it's been relatively high compared to the LGNZ ratio, and it was,
The liquidity.
and also because the treasury ratio on page 37, which is the treasury coverage ratio, which is typically the liquidity risk ratio, this might be helpful for the committee to understand how the ratios are calculated, what the terms are.
Yeah, so obviously the liquidity is basically our working capital, and LGFA state we have to have a minimum of 110%. There is no upper level on that. We do hold cash reserves so that we can actually pay our expenses, and at certain times of the year there will be more cash than others. And how it's calculated is based on our debt and cash and cash equivalents, which really relates to such things as term deposits. We don't have any bonds or any other investments like that. This is mainly cash reserve. It will be spent as the projects progress, and later in the year it's potentially going to be lower than that. But to be fair, we should be holding cash reserves because we have depreciation reserves. We need those to be cash backed. If we've got reserves with no cash, then we have a problem. So the higher that is, really the better for us. Yes, good. Yeah, it's good.
And the essential services ratio on page 18, the CapEx plus the paid invoices is still slightly lower than the depreciation. That's one of the benefits.
You want to talk to that one, Cody, or would you?
So capital expenditure for this first 2 quarters of the year has been slower than usual. And not only that, but also depreciation considers or accounts for asset reevaluations that we've been experiencing over the last few years, whereas capital expenditure is strictly the cost of the expenditure that we've incurred. I could redirect that question to Scott as well as to what we might expect the next couple of quarters with capital expenditure.
Well, I think that also ties into another question about forecasting as well, which I've been made aware of. But in essence, there is what you tend to get is a delay in invoicing coming through, and it is a slow start of the year. So we're expecting that to pick up. What I will say on the forecasting, because if you go to page 35, which is the forecast for the year, that figure is not correct.
Is it the 24 million?
The 0.94.
The,
No, we're still on the essential services ratio.
yeah, I can't answer. I can't answer.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, as Scott just said, summer months we tend to get more spent, particularly with renewals, because this is about our essential services such as transportation and Three Waters. Transportation primarily is done in better weather, so it's likelihood that the spend will pick up as we get through these months now. And this is about renewals expenditure rather than just capital expenditure. What Cody has stated on here is that there are open purchase orders, but that's what's open at the moment. There's likely to be more as we go along, but it all depends on what the district assets team are doing at the time and opening those purchase orders as to whether finance can actually account for that. We didn't meet at the end of last year, but that's because we were doing upgrades more than just renewals, and that could potentially be the end of the state of play on this one for this year as well.
So quite CapExy on my questions this time. I noticed on the balance sheet, I've got the page on there, but in the borrowing of 3,000 that wasn't in the annual plan, and assets under construction 15.1k, in the annual plan they were 10.7, and they may be completely unrelated, but I wondered if that $3,000 was tied in with the jump up from 15 to 10.
Yes, they are unrelated. The borrowing is debt that's due within the next 12 months. And under the annual plan, I don't think we've considered when specifically that debt is due, so all of it is under that the long-term borrowing. So that's where that variance comes from. As for the assets under construction, that's capital expenditure or work in progress, and that will fluctuate based on beginning capital expenditure as well as when we capitalize these assets and essentially recognize them as assets. So when we capitalize them, that figure then reduces, which we expect that to potentially reduce, potentially to that 10 million, but potentially also not towards the end of the year, which is when we do most of our capitalizing.
Then there was a question about the CapEx forecast, which I think Scott has already alluded to.
So the CapEx forecast figure, I've got a meeting with finance next week, but there's a lot of numbers in here that have been carried over from previous years, some of which have been parked. So for example, within the planning and regulatory services figure of 1.7 million, 1.3 of that is the EOC, which we've put a hold on. So we need to revisit that. There's $448,000, for example, earthquake strengthening for the Paki Watara building. Well, we're not going to be doing that in the short term, well, certainly not until next year and beyond. So I'm going to do a line by line over the next couple of weeks with finance going through revisiting all the numbers.
Thank you. And so curiosity, on page 40, sundry debtors, quite a bit higher than previous 1.1k, up to 782k higher than.
Yes, that's that relates to grant funding. I think for the future reports, what we're going to be doing is adding in a note to identify what grants are under that sundry debtors figure, because that seems to be a recurring question. At the moment, if I direct your attention to the debtors report, which is just under that sundry debtors, you can see under the sundry debtors row, 483,000 under that 30 to 60 day bucket. That figure largely relates to a Hokitika swimming pool grant. And under that current bucket, the $492,000, that relates to $366,000 of that relates to a variety of grants relating to community halls and federal funding.
notice that the executive government completely different timelines.
It's also worth mentioning that, so those grants, I did check just this morning, and they've not yet been paid, so they are still outstanding.
Any other questions from me? Any other committee members got questions?
I don't really have a question, but on page 22, the animal control fines, that's what, 134% up, 21,000, that's a lot, isn't it?
But the dog population, I've had a conversation with Claire about that, he's the chair of the dog population, he's growing exponentially as well, and with that, the issues that sit with that. Yeah, so one good thing we have got to support that is that we've got a very good dog control officer who works very, very well with the
That could be
members.
why it's got to be a good person.
Yeah, yeah. But, I mean, that's, you know, every day you see there's dogs out loose, wandering, whatever, hassling or whatever, so, it's just going to be
Increase in dogs wandering the district with them.
yeah. It's not going to drop down in a hurry, I don't think.
Perhaps more reasons not alone.
No,
That's not. It's actually reserved quite nicely, quite close to the rider that was developed by the community around the millennium period. And it's supposed to be dogs on leads and all this stuff, and there's various floral fauna in there that don't get disturbed. But any other observations on the audit report?
this doesn't include what we're taking out going forward, does it? No, so. Oh, no, I'm just, thinking, actually, what page am I on? 43? I'm just thinking when I'm on the, it's the reserves file, I was just looking at the list thinking that, the things that we've taken out for the rates, this is all historic information, not going forward, is it? So, no, it's all right. My head was just, my mind was just going like this.
Yeah, keep going future on this
Oh, yeah,
to
yeah.
December.
I was forward reading and thinking. Right, so.
Councillor Neil, observations or? No. Let's go ahead, a motion that the report be received. The committee received a quarterly report, October to December 2023. That's in its time to agenda. Councillor Beard, move if you wish. All in favour? Aye. Thank you, carried.
Thank you.
Yes, Cody. Right, revised policies.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. I'd like to take my report as read and call for any questions.
Feedback on the excellent policies again.
No, I didn't have any questions. They all look pretty.
No, the staff are happy with the reviews and things that, and having Kate here and dealing to what she said to us is great because it's something that's been devoid of the building for a while. So, yeah, no, it's good having that in there and working through these things. And I also do see that she's got very regular contact with the staff too. So it's not nice of them down the hallway, but no, Kate's got this under control.
So I've been reviewing a lot of policies lately for various entities, and I think that yours are outstanding. Just last time, there were a couple of really minor suggestions, but they're not like different ways of doing it. And yeah, you've no idea how much some of the things you see, and just that they're the really good combination between completeness and simplicity. Not 25 pages long, 30 pages long, but you reference the relevant documents in various places, so I think that's great. So I was thinking that this again is for the absence of doubt around the definition of employees. I have seen some and they go the whole 9 yards and they say permanent, fixed term, casual, interns, trainees, etc., etc. To do that, that's one way of doing it. That might be something you want to consider in the definitions, but it's only an alternate way of doing it. It's very much that's just and another one was, which I've seen in actually central government policies, was around seconded staff. but they actually mentioned whether or not this seconded staff are covered by this policy or by the terms of their own secondment. I don't know if they had a secondment. And the other ones where they specifically made a statement about contractors and what their status was, they usually were not because they have no that's another way of doing it. Leave, NZDF, NZDF leave, defence leave. And I have also seen people including public holidays, which is probably the OT holidays, but that's another completeness that would have anything about it. I love that you've got ACC and but no idea how many people don't and how many and ACC, and it's the way you define it. And I thought, you did know you mentioned special leave a couple of times, but you actually define special leave. That might be another possibility. The only other one I saw where possibly someone could be looking for an argument is around the having to notify within 30 seconds if you're not able to, 30 minutes, sorry, if you're not able to, not able to attend this to or to add something like as soon as you're practically able. That ties in deep.
If you make a side, I have a question about the sick leave may be gifted to other staff. Is that a normal condition?
It is something that is available to staff nations.
Has it always been?
Yeah, I believe that we've had that available to staff.
Sorry,
There was a whole policy drafted around it, but for taking it to full, we've tried to put it onto one policy.
so when a budget is done, is all sick leave accounted for in the budget? We don't count for sick leave because it's kind of classed as just as part of your salary. So just cover the extra contractors if we needed to cover them. Because if somebody goes on sick leave, then you pay it anyway. It's just technically paying out in salary, but it's the same thing. So you may have extra expenses if you've got to get someone else in to do the work.
Oh, you would only do that if it's significantly.
Yeah, just that could be a slide into tech staffing. Possibly, but no.
If it was significantly, somebody, the staff that has to leave has to actually, somebody has to agree to it. We can't just take it from them and give it to them. So the staff would have to, agree to it. So there's no saying that would happen, but if there was going to be a significant leave, then we might have to consider getting a contractor in. If it's a few days, then, then we would manage for a few days.
Thoughts on leave policy? Move to bullying policy? Feedback on any bullying policy?
It's just said that we have to have one.
Yeah.
It's, I know we don't live in a perfect world by any means, but yeah.
To be fair, I have used the WorkSafe template policy as the basis for this one, so it's not new to me, but we've amended it to tailor it for our workplace, but that is available on the WorkSafe website. That guidance around how to draft anti-bullying policies.
And let's just be clear, this isn't because we have a culture of bullying here.
No.
This is good practice to have. So let's just make that clear on the table. There is not a culture of bullying here.
No, it has to get referred to first.
And that's one of the standard set of policies that
Yeah.
is practice and policies for those ones.
It's part of well-being.
Just on that, because this covers staff, but it doesn't cover councillors, or council, does it?
We have, for the scope for the anti-bullying policy, included employees, contractors, volunteer workers, visitors and members of the public working on or visiting council buildings, facilities and work sites.
With governance, because so actually this is wording out of another policy it said governing body members, if relevant policies do not already exist in the governance manual and or relevant standards, and if responsibilities and procedures are not already established by the entity, they can be included. So that was, I was actually going to mention that councillors are elected members covered under something else, or if not, what are you going to do?
Because I think there was a need, because I'm going to go back historical when I was on council the previous time. There was bullying within the chambers here towards council members, from council members. And there's no protection, there's nothing there to protect them. So how do we do, should we be doing something there?
So if I may put it on my for health and safety hat. So in terms of the policy, as you're aware, what is for you now is under your responsibilities as the equivalent of directors of health and safety to ensure that the right policies and processes are in place for council staff. Therefore, these are policies purely for staff or contractors or people within the organisation. That in terms of the chief executive gives him the authority then to act accordingly for any breaches on that policy. In terms of the governance, it is how your code of conduct is written and then any policies that you want to adopt separately as part of that to support your code. So you've got in terms of ethics for councils and elected members, in terms on the local governance or local government framework and those sort of things. If you want to take that a step further as elected members in terms of policy for your own number, which then gets enforced by yourselves and you as mayor and aligns to your other policies such as conduct, then you may do that. But the two have to be kept separate in the sense that the chief exec can only utilise policy as can the executive as relate to non-compliance of either him as a manager and us as executive or of the staff themselves. So correct me if I'm wrong then, that cannot be part of the staff policy.
No, but it definitely is, and it's not really captured in the governance manual, the code of conduct, the ethics.
There should be a definition,
Yeah,
and specifically stated as well, not captured under Okay. No further questions from Chair? Any other? If not, then I move that the report be received, that the following policies be received by the Risk and Assurance Committee: leave policy, anti-bullying policy, and the other one word in about consideration of those suggestions. That consideration is given to the suggestions of the committee, because they are in suggestion. So I have a second of that motion. All in favour? Carried.
Thanks, Kate.
We will now move to Peter and the intrusion attempts.
Through the chair, before Peter starts, I have to draw attention to a very misleading and scaremongering headline in today's paper. Council systems were not breached. Clearly stated in the report, which that report has been taken from, with just a misleading headline. The systems were not breached. That was just an attempt to sensationalise something that didn't actually happen. Our systems acted appropriately and did what they needed to do. Our staff, IT staff, you can't commend them higher. They know what they're doing. They did what they needed to do. And that is just scaremongering, because when you actually read the body of the report, it's been taken from this report. There was no breach, and our data was safe. And I just wanted to get that before you start talking, Peter. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to present this report. I'll take it as being read. And I believe that the report covers the topic fully and nothing further to add to any questions.
I've just disappointed in what you told us, because if you know who's read it, you know, which obviously came in the agenda, I thought that it was a yet another example of the really tight controls that this council has around its IT, and how anyone could turn it into something that's a one-page item, which I understand I have absolutely no idea. But aside from that, any questions or comments?
I'll just add one thing. This is how well our systems worked and how good the staff were. we actually got the country, on one of those attempts, we got the country that was attacking, we got the name of the person who was attacking, and we got his LinkedIn profile. So, you know, I think it's pretty clear that our systems are working well. That's not to say that they would in future, because these people are doing different things all the time, but the fact that our staff are reacting, are finding these things and reacting straight away is really comforting.
You use the opportunity to actually holes that may be there, like some, we know this is a developing thing, cyber attacks are a developing thing. So if something comes up where one of these cases that is, we actually have policies to find it.
Well, international bodies, which you'll know more about this than I do, like for example, the security people in the White House and things like that, quite clearly say it's not if you get breached, it's when it's affected. So they're always trying, and I shared charts over the Christmas period. I was reading quite a lot about the interesting activities in North Korea. Yeah, the sort of thing they're getting up to. So, you know, someone had to go, it didn't do them any good. This is how I read this report. I think, okay.
No, but just, yeah, on that, I mean, you know, it's blatantly obvious to you within the first couple of attempts of trying to get your pins right and everything's right. And, you know, and when I raised the flag that I was having problems, you know, tracked, I was told already that they were onto us, and that was about half past 8 on whatever day that was now, that day, that I was told that you guys were already onto it, so it's pretty quick. It's quite impressive, just the system that you've got in place.
Motion of the report be received. Would be worship in a second. Councillor, all in favour? Carried. Thank you. And I'll now move that the Risk and Assurance Committee meeting move to the public excluded session, and we will have a break for the recording to be deactivated.